American jurisprudence has always recognized and honored the idea that all persons who engage with the legal system should be treated fairly. This brief informative message supports these long-standing legal principles and addresses the rights afforded to crime victims in Pennsylvania, and highlights the legal standing options provided by Act 77, which became law in September of 2022. Crime victims have legal standing to assert and enforce rights enumerated in the Crime Victims Act. Similar to federal law, Pennsylvania statutes afford victims of personal injury crimes the opportunities to be heard prior to decisions being made throughout the course of the process. The law also requires criminal justice professionals to provide information and to keep victims informed. From what we know about trauma and how trauma impacts crime survivors, attention to the rights and needs of crime survivors at critical moments in the justice process helps to provide a sense of empowerment that is vital to the healing process. Let's take a look at where and when the law requires these impactful elements.
As officers of the law, we are often the first system-based person to engage with a crime survivor. This engagement is likely to be riddled with trauma. It is important that we understand that trauma impacts people differently, and there is no one right trauma response. Some crime survivors will appear visibly distraught, others may be numb or indifferent. All of these are common responses to trauma. It can be difficult, but in the midst of traumatic circumstances, we must remain ready to do our jobs and provide crime survivors with the support and guidance that the law requires. In crimes involving personal injury, the law requires us to make reasonable effort to notify victims of the arrest, the filing of a complaint, and any escapes from custody. The basic information we provide includes referrals to other providers and creates pathways to healing and recovery from traumatic events. The application and information on victims' compensation is a huge step in the recovery process. This information helps crime survivors receive financial assistance for losses that occurred as a result of the crime. It is imperative that we understand how vital our role is in upholding crime victims' rights. When those of us who know better do better, we create multiple pathways for healing and justice.
The Prosecutorial and Clerks of Courts offices throughout the Commonwealth represent a rich history steeped in tradition and jurisprudence. The Pennsylvania State Association of Prosecutorials and Clerks of Courts work to secure statewide uniformity across all Pennsylvania counties and to improve services to the public. It is important that we realize for the average citizen, coming through our doors is likely to be a traumatizing or at a minimum, a stressful event. We should be prepared to assist crime victims impacted by trauma with a trauma-informed approach. There are resources available to help you determine what that looks like for your office. Common principles of trauma-informed services include providing space for a person to be heard and providing options and allowing an individual to make their own choice. With the passage of Act 77 in September of 2022, legal standing became an avenue for crime victims to address violations of their rights in court. Crime victims have a choice on how to address these issues. Whether a crime survivor chooses to file their own motion, be represented by a private attorney, or request the prosecutor file on their behalf, Prosecutorials and Clerks of Courts should be prepared to do our part by ensuring that the documents presented become part of the record. Assuring that crime survivors are comfortable engaging with court personnel is an important element in the judicial process. As the person behind the counter or desk, there is an assumption of power perceived by those on the other side. Let's stay committed to harnessing our power into excellence in the service provision for the benefit of all the citizens of the Commonwealth.
Prosecutors are responsible for all phases of the criminal trial process. And with that responsibility comes duties and obligations to the crime victims impacted by the cases we prosecute and the cases we choose not to file. As attorneys, we are familiar with the Crime Victim Bill of Rights, and we are committed to upholding all areas of the law. Pursuant to the statute, it is the responsibility of the prosecutor to provide notice and opportunity to crime victims at various stages of the judicial process. In a personal injury or burglary crime, the statute requires the prosecutor to notify the victim and provide an opportunity for the victim to provide comment prior to reducing or dropping charges or changing a plea agreement. This duty to provide notice and opportunity continues throughout the sentencing, release, and disposition phases of the process. The nature of our work requires collaboration. At the request of a crime victim, the Commonwealth has legal standing to assert and enforce a right enumerated by the Crime Victims Act. Collaborating with crime victims in this manner assures fairness, builds trust, and a sense of empowerment for those impacted by crime, and engaging with a system that is often unknown to them. As prosecutors, it is never our intent to violate the rights of crime victims. But when a right is inadvertently missed or a notification is not provided, it is our privilege to work with crime victims to seek a remedy by filing a legal standing motion.
As the executive director of the Public Defender Association of Pennsylvania, I understand that our justice system works because all parties have rights recognized by law. As defense attorneys, we should be committed to securing a fair justice system and providing high-quality legal representation to people facing loss of life, freedom, and family. A part of that commitment includes understanding the rights afforded to crime victims and acknowledging their role in the legal process. We understand it is the role of prosecutors to provide crime victims with notice and the opportunity to provide comment at various stages in the legal process. And it is incumbent upon us as defense attorneys to be aware of crime victims' rights and how and when they should be upheld in the process.
Pennsylvania law has always supported crime victims' rights. Now, the law provides a remedy for enforcement of those rights as enumerated in the Crime Victims Bill of Rights. Victims of crime now have standing to address rights violations before the court. Judges play a crucial role in this process. We have the responsibility to ensure that the law is upheld. When reviewing a plea arrangement, please ask, has the victim been informed of changes to the charges or the changing of a plea? Please ask, has the victim been given an opportunity to provide the prosecutor with comments concerning the plea? Before the conclusion of a case, make sure you have provided space for the victims to provide a victim impact statement to the court. When a motion is filed by either the prosecutor or the victim, which alleges a violation of one of the enumerated rights, please make sure your staff is equipped to follow proper procedures to address the motion. You see, as members of the judiciary, we have the privilege of ensuring the rights afforded to crime victims are upheld, and that when citizens of Pennsylvania are impacted by the judicial system, their experiences are in line with fundamental principles of justice and fairness.
Every day, countless individuals suffer the devastating impacts of crime. their lives are irrevocably altered, their sense of security shattered. Yet too often the needs and voices of these victims are overlooked or marginalized. It is imperative that we advocate for victims' rights and ensure their well-being is prioritized. Victims deserve to be treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. They should have access to necessary resources, support services, and justice. We must work to create a society where victims feel empowered to come forward, where their experiences are validated, and where they are not re-traumatized by the legal process.